Likes dinosaurs. She's like, show him Jurassic Park. Don't show him you getting tore up by a dinosaur.
Hey, I'm Derrick Gates, a former drug boss that died and was brought back by Jesus himself. Now I travel the world preaching the gospel, equipping the saints, writing books, and making movies. You have a unique opportunity to hear revelation from a cutting-edge perspective as you listen to my podcast, Unleashed. What is up, everyone? I'm pumped about today's episode. I got my friend George Perez with me, and we're going to dive into what it looks like to be in Hollywood and just a little bit about his testimony. Before we get started, we're going to go ahead and get this commercial out of the way so we can dive deep into George Perez.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to Unleashed with your host, Derrick Gates. If you'd like to see the video version of this episode, please visit derrickgatesmin, where you can give, buy merchandise, check out his YouTube channel, and see Derrick's upcoming events. We encourage everyone to visit the website to find out more about your host, hear his testimony, as well as hear the passions of his heart for God. Learn how to become a monthly partner of $50 or more, and you can gain access to his red carpet events, get exclusive teachings, and a free digital download of his movie, From Death. Remember, brothers and sisters, that address is derrickgates.com, DERRICK Gates.com.
And you want to make sure to go to that web address because that's where you can get the video version to this podcast. And you do not want to miss this handsome face beside me today. You want to see it. You want to see this with your own eyes. He is there's a reason Elton John chose him. He is a handsome man. And you want to make sure to be able to see the video version of this. I love Elton John. I like his music. So out of the gate, so this is George Perez, my friend. We got introduced, I think, back in October of last year, and he had read an article, maybe in Charisma or Elijah List, yeah, and where I talked about Hollywood, and it just resonated with him, and we met for coffee, and immediately I just love the guy. But I'm going to have you just elevator pitch me how you got into acting. Give me like the short version of how you got into acting.
I wanted to give you the long version, but I'll give you.
Well, you can give me the long version. I'll
give you I'll tell you. My whole life is kind of it's come together. You know, it's the hand of God bringing it together just by how things happen. There's no other way it could have happened without the hand of God. I was raised Catholic. We come from many generations from the Catholic Church. Back to my great-grandfather used to tithe from his ranch, from his harvest, like 10% of his corn, 10% of his beans. My father passed away when I was 7. I come from a huge family of 9 kids. And I remember growing up, we always had food, just didn't have these little extras. Like my mom she didn't work, and my brothers were the ones supporting us, so they weren't gonna pay for my dance classes or my acting classes or anything like that. So I had to find my own way. When I was about 12, 13, I used to scribble on a notebook during class because I just didn't like academics. I didn't care for academics too much. I don't know if it was, I don't think I wasn't stupid. I just, even though sometimes I felt like my teachers looked at me like I was, I think I was just more inspired by other things. And dance was one of them. My mom put me in folklorico dancing, which is what the gringos call the Mexican hat dance.
Right. I do that often.
But and then that was my first exposure to like being on stage and things like that, and I liked it. I was in an article when I was like 10 years old from a local college that I performed for like Cinco de Mayo, I think it was, and I was like, oh wow, there I am in the newspaper, and that was like my first little taste of fame. And so I used to scribble in this notebook just my signature all the time. I had just like pages of my signature. And I didn't know why I was doing it, but I was just thought, someday I'm going to be famous and I'm going to practice how I'm going to write my name. But I was believing something that hadn't manifested yet.
Wow.
And that was the first time, without really knowing the biblical connection with, believing. The world will say, hey, tune in to the power of, what is it, The Secret? They never get credit to God, but all that's in the Bible, and it's been in the Bible for years. When that book came out, it was like a huge thing, and people were like, oh my gosh, that's it? Just got to believe and receive, and then I'll get it. And, but it's, I think it's a universal law, but it's in the Bible. When I was about 14 years old, I did this show. I'll try to make it more of a nutshell. I did this show for the March of Dimes, and I was dancing in it, and I met this woman who was an evangelist, and her husband. And when I met him, he was this like hippie dude. His name was Ed, and he was an artist. He was a visual artist. He painted. And he looked at me and he goes, you talk to God, don't you? Or God talks to you. And I said, that's really personal, like what this guy's asking me. He just kind of came in and looks at me and says, God talks to you a lot, doesn't he? And I said, yeah, I talk to myself, I guess. And he said, he goes, that person that you're talking to, that's Jesus.
Wow.
And when he said that, I just got like chills all over my body, and I knew who Jesus was, and I knew what Jesus did for me on the cross. I mean, growing up Catholic, you see him hanging literally on the cross, and for someone to tell you that he talks to you, like it's him talking to you. It's like he's off that cross. He's not on that cross anymore. He's resurrected. He's a living being, and he's in you, and he's with you. And so it just made my eyes tear up. And I said, really? I said, he goes, yeah. I'm like, is he with me like right now? I was 14 years old. He's like, yeah, he's with you right now. I'm like, really? And I said, can you just give me a second? I just want to say hi to him. And I was just being really genuine. And I turned and I just said hi to Jesus. And I just started crying more and more and more. From that moment on, my life changed. And all I wanted to do was Matthew 6:33, seek God. And I didn't know about that verse at that time, but that's all I wanted to do was just give my life to Jesus. I had desires in my heart to be a dancer. I had been dancing, and I started getting more into dancing. I was doing more shows. I wasn't thinking so much about acting, even though I told myself as a little kid that I want to be in movies. And I remember asking God to reveal to me what it is, how it is he loves me. I wanted to know, show me how you love me. Show me how you love people. I want to see people the way you see people. And no one told me to pray this. This was just something that directly from my heart that I asked. And so he answered, and he revealed like people's hearts to me everywhere I would go. For a while, I would see anybody on the street, and I would look at them as they were a brother, someone that I'm supposed to love, like my own brother. I saw them like they were my own brothers and sisters, and I just felt like I wanted to go up to them and hug them, but I didn't know these people. They were strangers. Some people reacted weird to me, but it got to where I literally asked the Lord to take it away from me. I didn't want it anymore because it was overwhelming, and it was heartbreaking because I was really being able to see people through his heart. Never prayed for anything for myself, and here comes the showbiz part. So I asked the Lord, I said, God, I want to be in a music video, even if it's just for 2 seconds in the background. Right? And I didn't hear nothing back. And then I was like, I felt convicted, like, oh man, I shouldn't have prayed for that. What's wrong with me? I'm praying for something worldly. I'm praying to be in something that's of the world. And I almost repented for asking. But then I said, okay, at least before I turn 18. Okay, I was already 15 years old at this time. And then next thing you know, you asked me how I got into Hollywood. I was attending the High School of the Arts, and they were looking for background dancers that were Latino for this movie called Salsa. It was Kenny Ortega's was producing it. He had just finished doing the movie Dirty Dancing, so he was really on fire at that time. And so I went. I showed off. He got my information. He says, "Wow, you can really dance." I had been already attending School of the Arts, so I was a better dancer, and that was it. 6 months later, after that, I get a call. He's in Miami. He says, "Hey George, this is Kenny." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, hi." He's like, "Do you want to star in a music video with Elton John?" And in this film, I was just in the background, but it wasn't a music video. It was just a movie, and you could barely see me. And he goes, "Do you want to star in a music video with Elton John?" And I was like, "Sure." He says, "What do you, are you, what's your availability? Are you available can you get on a plane tomorrow?" And I was like, I'm 15 years old. I got to ask my mom, it's summertime. I'm not doing anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
And right at that moment, when I hung up the phone, I just dropped to my knees and just started praising the Lord and just crying because I knew that it was Him answering my prayer.
Wow.
Now,
okay, let me ask you something real quick. Talk to me about the fashion choice for the video with Elton John. Tell me about.
Oh man, I was getting so close to like evangelizing millions right now, and you want me to ask about my fashion choice.
We'll get to evangelizing millions, but I want to. Those of you that are watching and listening, the thing is when I saw the video a couple months ago, I immediately texted George and said, "Hey, who picked out your outfit for this video?"
I've been watching a little bit of your shows, Derrick, and I just got to say, some of those T-shirts that you wear, you wore one with a rainbow.
I did. He
had a rainbow shirt on. And I think, oh, that's good. He's reaching out to the LGBT community. That's good. But yet he makes fun of my 80s outfit. And
truth be told, I think I wore that same outfit in the 80s.
You did?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I think we all dressed like that in the 80s.
You know what? That was a dancer thing. I remember when I was at the High School of the Arts, I was the only male guy doing that. But I recall when I lived in the hood that there were some brothers that would wear the shirt up pretty high. It was a football thing too.
Yeah, it was.
The football thing.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
We wore the half football shirts.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's it. Let me go to a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hear the rest of that story.
This message was brought to you today by the movie From Death, a documentary directed by Derrick Gates and produced by Derrick and Nina Gates. The movie From Death is about raising the dead and features some of the biggest names in Christianity today, like Jennifer LeClaire, Ryan Lestrange, James Gall, Jeff Jansen, David Herzog, Kat Kerr, Mel Tari, Robert Slairden, and many, many more. If you would like a copy of this amazing movie, visit derrickgates.com. Remember, that's derrickgates.com. DERRICK Gates.com.
All right. You want to make sure to get that movie. The movie is, I think it's incredible. I might be biased about it, but I think I like the movie. We spent 3 years making that movie. You need to make sure. Have you seen the movie yet? Have I sent you the movie?
From Death?
Yeah.
You have not sent it to me.
Do we have copies of that here in the car? Maybe.
Can I see it on YouTube? The whole thing? No.
No, but I can send it to you for a download. I can send you or I can just give you the DVD.
Do you have to?
Do I have to?
I'm just kidding.
I don't have.
I'm Mexican, man.
Well, yeah, I'm in by the clause. I'm married to a Mexican, so.
Derrick, man, we got to introduce you to Hollywood the way it is, homie.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah, I need some lessons.
All right. So there's such a thing called casting directors, and there's casting.
Okay.
And they'll cast you. No, to be fair, on a lot of projects in Hollywood, if you're I believe like when I worked on Tin Cup with Kevin Costner and Jennifer Lopez on Selena, they actually saw, because they were already cast, and they were able to see the selection of who's up for the role of so-and-so. And I know Kevin Costner saw, because when I met him, he knew all about my resume. He's like, so you were in Russia for a year? Awesome. And then he was like, okay, yeah, it's, you know, great job. And I was like, okay, I guess he has a say. So that you do have a say to a certain degree who's going to be on a project that you're like the main star of.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
And so Elton John, I don't know if he, to be honest, I don't know if he actually got to participate in choosing who's going to work. God chose me from the very beginning. That's all I have to say. Is that
that's
God
good.
chose me from the very beginning for that.
And that's amazing. I mean, specific. So you prayed a specific prayer. I mean, you can't get any more specific than that. I want to be in a music video. I mean, how many people have? The thing is like most people wouldn't pray that prayer because they don't believe that God would answer something so big, because that's a big deal.
Well, he didn't really answer my prayer exactly the way I prayed for it, and if I can share the rest of that story.
Please do it.
So, when I got there, you know, in show business, even if you're a background, if you're on a set, you already feel like a star, you know. And you know, when they say, "Hey, I want you to come out here and star in a music video," Elton John, I'm thinking, "Okay, cool. I get my 2 seconds in the background. Finally, yes." You know, but it was far from that. When 3 months later, after the video came out, I was at a buddy's house, and we were watching. It just appeared on, I think it was VH1 or MTV, and when I was seeing it, they were hovering around the TV, and I was watching it for the first time. I got to see it with my friends, and I was looking. I was like, "Wow, I'm like in this whole thing. I have more screen time than Elton John. That's incredible."
And that's the truth. We watched it again the other day, and I'm like, man, he is all over this.
And I, right at that moment, because it was like about almost a year that I prayed that prayer, and right at that moment, I was talking to God, and I said, "Lord, you know, I asked just to be in the background for 2 seconds, you know?" And he said, "Well, you didn't put me in the background. You made me first in your life.
Wow.
You sought me first. Everything was about me. So why am I going to put you in the background? Why am I going to put you at the end and make somebody else and put somebody else in the forefront?"
Wow.
And yeah, when I knew that only the Lord could tell me that. Only the Lord can tell me. I get chills just thinking about it right now. And that's right there. That's and what happens afterwards, it's just like crazy, crazy, crazy. It's like I'm so young and all these dreams start coming true for me. I start getting calls from talent agents. This is not a lie. I got a call from this talent agent, and they said, "Hi, I'm calling from Abrams Artist." They said Abrams Artist Agency, and I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, what did I do? Am I in trouble? You know, is it La Migra? You know what I mean?" Like I didn't know what it was. They're like, I was like, "An agency." They're like, "Is this George Perez? We're calling from Abrams Artist Agency." I was like, and they're like, "Well, we're a talent agency. They're like, we just represent actors. We saw your music. We were in a bar, and we saw your music video playing on the screen, and we were just blown away by you, and we were wondering if you had any representation." I was like, "How'd you get my number? You know, like, how'd they find me?"
Right.
And there was out of Europe, there was this magazine. It's very famous in Germany and all over Europe. It's called Bravo Magazine. And they do articles on, the articles that they showed me had Tom Cruise, Sylvester Stallone, like all the like biggest stars. And apparently they had been trying to find me. They thought I lived in Miami because that's where the video was shot. So they went to almost every agent in Miami to try to locate me. They couldn't find me. Finally, they got a hold of the casting director, who didn't even cast me. He cast the rest of the video, but he knew Kenny. So he's like, "You know what? I don't have his information, but I know Kenny does. Let me get his phone number and I'll call him, and I can have him call you. I'm not at the liberty to give you his phone number. So he called me and said, look, there's these people they're from Bravo magazine. Apparently it's a big magazine in Europe. You know, I'm like, should I call them or no? Like I was getting too much attention, and I wasn't sure who to call, who not to call. He's like, I think you could call them. I call, right? And I get this lady on the phone. She's off Sunset Boulevard in a nice area of Sunset in this high rise. And that's where her office was. And I remember saying, hi, this is George Perez. I was told to call you. She's like, hang on, don't hang up. Don't hang up. Oh my God, don't hang up. She's like, we got George Perez on the phone. We got the kid from the...
What?
She's like, hi. So, hi, you know, we work with Bravo magazine, and we've been looking for you for a long time. You're known as the mystery boy in Europe right now, in Germany. You're known
the mystery boy.
Mystery boy.
Wow.
Because you know how music videos just have the name of like the actual artist. They don't have, you know, and then starring, you know, and then here's all the dancers. They don't do that. So nobody knew who I was. And she's like, can you come to my office? Can we come to you? And I said, I can come to your office. I went to their office. There's pictures all over their walls of all these major stars. And I was like blown away. And they were like, she showed me this magazine. She goes, you're in these magazines. I'm like, really? So she showed me these magazines. They're in German. And there's all these photos from the Elton John video of me. She goes, we've been getting thousands of fan mail for you, wanting to know who you are. And I was like, wow. They came to my house. I felt like almost slightly a little bit violated, a little bit. They came to my house. They came with a film crew with cameras. They went into my room. They shot. They wanted to know everything.
Did you clean your room?
I did.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And yeah. My mom was making tamales. I'm like, Mom, they're probably gonna bring their own food.
Did they bring their own food?
I don't remember. I don't think so. They were like a guerrilla crew, man. They just came in quick, and they were very grateful. And then I just said, hey, can I get a copy of the magazine? She's like, absolutely.
That's crazy. Hey guys, it's Derrick. If you didn't know, I am back on the road. Listen, if you have a church or an event that you want us to come to, we cleared out our entire schedule when COVID-19 hit. But now we're going back out, but we're only going out once a month. So the dates will fill up fast. If you have a date that you want us to come speak at, if you want us to come minister, make sure to get hold of us at derrickgates.com, derrickgates.com to book us for your upcoming event. That's crazy. So what happened next?
So then I got pursued by some agents and by management people, and I ended up signing with my first agent and my first manager, and then I started. Then they put me in acting classes in Hollywood.
So how old were you at that point? 16?
I was like 16.
Yeah,
16. And I took some acting classes, and as soon as I took classes for like 3 months, I was already booking stuff. My agent wanted me to wait 6 months.
Wow.
But I started booking stuff. One of my first auditions was Francis Ford Coppola for the Outsiders TV series.
Wow.
And yeah, and there was, I'll tell you, when I was reading material for auditions, there was an anointing. I could read stuff, and I wasn't much of a reader. One of the things that terrified me about being an actor, why I wanted to be a dancer, was because I didn't want to have to read.
Right.
I wasn't very good at reading. And I didn't want to have to read scripts. I was like, what? I won't even read like a little, nursery rhyme book. I have to read a screenplay? How do you read these things? Now, I've read hundreds of them now. But it was just God like raising me up. And these lines would pop off the page. And it's like I would already know how to act them out.
Right.
And what the emotions were behind it and everything. And it was amazing what God was doing. I would pray in the waiting area before I would go into the audition. I would always have my head down. As other actors would come in, they'd be looking at each other, sizing each other up. I just would have my head down in prayer, Lord, and just focusing. And then I would get in there, and it was crazy.
Let me ask you. So, just about that part there where you're waiting to go in. is it very competitive for I mean, when you go into an audition, is there a lot of competition between the people that are trying out for the parts? Is there a healthy respect or not?
Yeah, there's different stages of it. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've seen it all. When you just come off of a big movie, if you're in demand, you don't see anybody when you walk into these rooms. You'll walk in, and you go straight to like a producer director session. They don't even waste your time sending you the casting.
Right.
The casting director already sees you. They'll be there, at the meeting, but they usually just bring you straight to the producer and director.
Sure.
They don't want to keep coming back when they know that they want the director to meet you. And so a lot of the times you won't see anybody else. They'll bring them in every half an hour, every 20 minutes. And then there's the commercial auditions. That's why I don't like doing commercial auditions. They'll have 20, 30 people waiting. And if I walk in, if I see 20 people that's ahead of me, I just turn right back around and go home. I'm like, I'm not going to wait for this. But not in the beginning. Once my ego got puffed up, that's when I was doing it.
Right. So, how old were you what was it? The soldier, what was that?
It's Toy Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers. I rented that movie a while back on YouTube Red, just to watch. I'd seen it when I was younger. And, of course I didn't know you then when I saw it. So I wanted to go back and rewatch it. How far into it were you at that point?
How far into what?
Like, how old were you? How far into acting were you?
I got the job when I was 17. I turned 18 on the set of that.
Wow.
So I had done 3 projects before that. I did a TV show with James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader.
Great actor.
Fire. He's a great actor. He was one of my favorite actors I've ever worked with. Most humble man.
Field of Dreams is one of my favorite movies with him.
Yeah, he. I have a story about that episode. It's kind of a beautiful. Can I share it real quick?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm freaked out. I'm 17 years old, and I get this opportunity to work with him on his TV series, and I have 2 scenes with him. Originally, I think I only had 1 scene with him, but it was a powerful scene. That was the audition scene. And I was nervous because I thought, shoot, this guy's he's a legend. He's won Tony Awards. He's known for his acting.
Right.
And I have to act with him. And he's a little bit intimidating, And so that's what you think of him. When I got to the set, I'm in my trailer. I'm, looking around at everything. I had already done a couple jobs prior to that. So
sorry we didn't have a trailer for you today.
Oh, it's all right. This is my third job. And I hear a knock on the door, and I'm thinking it's the production assistant. They usually tell you, hey, we got about 5 minutes if you want to, go get your makeup, go to makeup. And okay. So I hear the knock, and I open it, and it's James Earl Jones. And this is the first time any actor of his caliber, of any caliber, has ever come to my trailer to knock on my door. Usually they'd sense their assistant would go, hi, James Earl Jones would like to see you and run lines with you. Would it be okay if you meet, in a certain area? Nope, he just comes and knocks on my trailer door, and he's so humble. I was blown away. He was treating me like I was the Lion King. He's the voice of the Lion King, right?
Right. That's right.
He was treating me like I was the Lion King, and that he was my servant. This is how humble this man was. I was so blown away from it. He almost had his head bowed down, seriously. And he goes, hi. Hi, I'm James. Just wondering if you would like to, would like to run lines with me and go over the scene. And I was like, yeah, yes.
It's funny. Even at my deepest voice, I feel like it doesn't even get close.
No, it doesn't get close.
That guy's voice is the most epic voice ever.
Can you imagine if he tried to get deeper, how deep it would be?
Right. Man. Wow. So he came in and said, started talking to you and
wanted to know if I could run lines with him. And I was like, yeah. And so I ran lines with him. But when this whole thing ended, It was amazing. They ended up. When this whole thing ended, they were so blown away by the scene that I did with him. I gotta record this because this has never been recorded, but I've shared it many times. When I was doing this really intense scene with him, I was sitting right across from him. It was like he's sitting there and I'm sitting there, but the table's a little smaller. I did it in 2 takes, and the first take I couldn't get out the words because I was too emotional. So the director came up to me and he goes, "I loved what you just did. Do it again, but we need to be able to hear the words." I was like, okay. So I just made some adjustments in my mind, and I delivered it exactly the way he wanted it. It was believable. It was real. And then after the take was over, James Earl Jones leans into me and he goes, "How did you do that?" He asked me, how did I do that?
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know. I was thinking about my dad who died, but my mom in the scene had died. And so my mom's alive. So I said, well, I just substituted my mom for my dad,
Wow.
And I was just thinking that it was my mom who died.
Wow.
And so he was like, and after that scene, I went home. The director, executive producer, Mary Lou Henner's husband. The next time he saw me on the set, he said, "My wife is like your number 1 fan now." And I was like, wow.
Wow.
I get Toy Soldiers after I done filming that. I go to do Toy Soldiers like a few months later. I get a call from my agent in Virginia. That's where we're shooting that. And my agent's like, "So they loved what you did on Gabriel's Fire." That was the name of the show. That they rewrote the episode to be around your character, around you, and
Wow.
they want you to come back to film the additional scenes. I need to speak to the producer to find out if you're going to have any breaks, because it would have been months. I didn't have a break for another 2 months, and this was the first episode after the pilot, or I think it was the pilot. I'm not sure. And they postponed the release of it because they were waiting for me to be available to fly back to Hollywood to shoot the scene. I fly back to Hollywood. I see James Earl Jones. He hugs me. This man's awesome. I said, "Hey, I'm working on Toy Soldiers with Lou Gossett Jr." He's like, "Oh, tell Lou I said hello." I was like, how cool is that? I got to tell Lou Gossett that James Earl Jones says hi when I get back.
Wow.
I couldn't wait to get back just so I can tell Lou Gossett.
No, right.
And then
That's
he's going to
good.
say, "How do you know him?" "Well, I'm working with him on his show."
Wow.
Anyways, so yeah, that's all vanity.
And Lou is an awesome guy too. And I think Lou's a Christian.
Well, yes. And James Earl Jones is too, I believe.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, he did the whole recording of the Bible.
Right. Well, of course.
So if he didn't get, converted after recording that, then.
You know who, I became a fan of Lou in Iron Eagles. Mm-hmm. Remember that movie back in the day, Iron Eagles, where he flew jets, that incredible actor.
It was An Officer and a Gentleman?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
Is
it good?
To see that movie.
I'll check it out.
Oh my gosh!
I'm sure my wife has seen it. She's a movie and a music buff. She knows all about that stuff. So when I watched Toy Soldiers, one of the things that I recognized was, and I'm a critic about everything. It's just who I am. I believe in like a ministry of excellence with everything, and it's just, I have this eye. It's like I'll watch movies. I'm like, why is that person acting? Because they're horrible. And like, I often wonder, how does this person get this part? Because they are absolutely horrible at acting or whatever. But one of the things I know, you were in that movie with a lot of people that went on to be big names. Sean
Astin. Well, he was.
Yeah.
I was on that movie with people that were already big names.
Right. Sure.
Because Will Wheaton was in Stand By Me.
Right. Yeah.
And
right.
then he was in Star Trek.
That's right.
Westy in Star Trek. And then Sean was in Goonies.
Right.
He had been in all kinds of movies before he did that one. And then Keith Coogan was in Adventures in Babysitting, which was a huge hit.
Oh, that's right.
So I felt really small next to those guys.
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this because you're my friend or because you're here. I thought you did the best acting in that movie. And I said that to my wife. I'm like, he's literally the best actor in that movie. I mean, you from the time where you were in the music video, which had been a couple years, your performance had grown. I mean, it was, your acting was absolutely incredible in that movie, and your fight scene had increased, because I remember your boxing scene in the music video versus when you had to get into it in the movie was, I mean, like, you could just tell you had grown so much as an actor, and it was an incredible movie. So let me ask you, had there been anything in say 30 years of acting now, and you've taken a little bit of a break now, but my understanding is you're going back into it, or actively pursuing it again. And you should, because you're very super gifted. God's given you that. Has there been anything as a believer that has kind of come between acting? Has there been things that you're like, look, these are things I'm not going to do? Have you been asked to do anything that you're like, look, I don't feel comfortable with this?
When I was doing the Elton John video, I'll start with that one. I was asked by this is a really neat little story. When they hired the two lead females, the Caucasian one, the blonde girl, her name was Julia. We had a scene where I had to kiss her, and Kenny Ortega's like, "You really got to kiss her." I was like, "Okay," and I didn't know how to movie kiss or film kiss, and I had kissed girls before. I was 15, almost 16 years old, and so I put.
How many girls had you kissed at that point?
I don't want to say.
Okay,
but this was before.
That's a gentleman right there.
Before I was 14. I had quite a few girlfriends, but the girl, I didn't know how to screen kiss, and I'm supposed to act and make it look passionate, but I put my tongue in her mouth, and when the take was over, because when I was kissing her first, I was just like, and Kenny was like, "You really gotta kiss her." So I kissed her, and I put my tongue in her mouth, and after the take, she came up to the director and said, "He just put his tongue in my." She was 19. She was a professional model from Miami.
Right.
I didn't know. She goes, "He just put his tongue in my mouth." So Kenny comes up to me afterward, because Kenny didn't direct it. He was a choreographer.
Right.
Kenny wasn't that big yet that time. He was, but he was more of a choreographer. He comes up to me. He's like, "George, don't put your tongue in her mouth." It's like, and I was a little bit embarrassed, but he was saying it like, "She wishes. Just don't put your tongue in her mouth." I'm like, "Okay." And so I felt embarrassed. The next day we're shooting. And, models are very careful with, she's 19. Her mom probably doesn't want her to do nude things or anything like that. There's a scene in the music video where I take off my shirt, and we're in like the swamp. Take off my shirt. And they had asked me. The director came up. Kenny came up to me, and he's like, "Okay, so in this next shot, after you take off your shirt, you're going to take off her shirt." Okay, and she wasn't wearing anything under her shirt.
Right.
And I looked at him, and I felt right there, not going to do that. So I told Kenny, I said, "I can't take off her shirt. I'm not going to take off her shirt. I'll take off my shirt. I'm not going to take off her shirt." And he goes, "Really?" It's like, "Yeah. Really, I'm not going to take off her shirt." He goes back to the director, tells the director, he's not. This is Russell McColvey. He directed Greystoke, Tarzan.
Oh, wow.
So he tells him he's not going to take off her shirt. It's like, "What?" He's Australian. He's not going to take. So Kenny comes back to me. "Can you just take off her shirt?" I was like, "No, I'm not going to take off her shirt." They went back and forth. I held up production for a half an hour. Okay. She realized later, she came up to me. She was so grateful that I was fighting on her behalf. And after she had outed me about the French kiss thing, you know what I mean? She probably felt like, "Wow, this is a good kid." And I was like thinking he was, because she probably thought I was a perv for putting my tongue in her mouth, like I was taking advantage of the situation. But that was far from it. I was nervous,
right?
And I didn't know what to do. They were telling me to, So anyway.
Wow. So what about later? What about later in life as you pursued your relationship with God, as Hollywood, you started getting cast as other things and movies, TVs, or whatever. How did you feel like God and your acting career
One of the things that because that was very important to me. One of the things that I felt blessed to where I didn't have to. I wasn't auditioning for roles that called for me to do things like this. Like God was protecting me from it already. There was a couple instances where they wanted me to swear, and so I cut down the swear words dramatically. On one film, I believe I completely turned it down because there's too much cussing in it. And during the reading, but this was a smaller budget film, and during the reading, roundtable reading, the director, I looked at him, I was like, this is all these cuss words are unnecessary, and it's too much. And so I didn't do that film. Another film, another TV show, not TV, it was film. I would just take the words like F you, and I would just say frickin', or like, forget you, man, forget you.
Right.
One of the things you learn with acting is like you can think the actual word, but not say it, and it'll come across as if you're actually saying it. Forget you, man. Forget you. Right? Doesn't this feel like I'm saying that?
Right.
Oh, I hurt my arm.
Because it's the passion behind it.
Prayer afterward.
Right. A little healing prayer. Hey, we're going to take a break. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to end this episode, but we're going to pick back up on the next. So if you're hearing this is part one. We're going to pick back up with George Perez and the next episode. So we will see you on the next episode of Unleashed.
So fresh sun.
Get it, Neil. Get it, Neil.
It's all for you.